The following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
WZWA Sports. It's in the game.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the WZWA Network, and tonight we have a review coming out of our sports division. Podcasting from his home in Swanview, Hunter, the head of the WZWA Network sports division, Hogsley. Not a bad Bruce Buffer, right? Okay, look, you are here with your boy Hogsley, and today we are going to be reviewing UFC 285 and Jon Jones absolutely steamrolling Ciryl Gane. But not just that, we do have a lot to touch on today. I want to touch on Grasso upsetting Shevchenko in what might have been my fight of the night. We'll also quickly touch on Rachmanov. The hype around him, man, that's real. Okay, that is the real deal, everyone. We had Gamrot Turner. We'll touch on Bo Nickal's debut. That's a little bit of controversy around that one, eh? But we will get to it. We'll get to most of the fights today, but today we'll quickly touch on the prelims. We'll touch on the prelims. It's a hard word to say. Oh my God, everyone. Okay, look, I will, let's preface this. I'm a boxing fan more than I'm a mixed martial arts fan. I actually have a couple of issues with MMA just in the way it's fought. I don't like the lack of striking defense. I just really don't like the way they throw punches all that well. Just that was never more evident in some of these prelim fights, right? I have seen more experienced fighters and better fights coming out of Kimbo Slice's backyard. My God, the whole show kicks off with the Marquez versus Barriott fight. I gotta say, when Marquez was coming out to Dance Monkey, I was loving that. I was like, yeah, all right, that's cool. Okay, let's get hyped up, have a good time, you know? None of this serious shit. I want someone like singing on their way to the ring. And he was. Shame that's the best thing he did all night. My God, all he did was just windmill wild bombs most of the time. Hey, look, it actually looked like he was going to catch Barriott in the first round. He won the first round, in my opinion. But the more experienced fighter, Barriott, he obviously just lasted out the storm. Marquez just blew his bolt in the first round and then just gets viciously taken down by elbows. In fact, it was a very bloody affair, okay? That was very entertaining to see someone just get absolutely ripped to shreds like that. But the guy had no game plan whatsoever other than I'm just going to be as wild as possible. So that was, look, from the start, I was like, oh, geez, this is why I have my issues with the sport. But look, it did pick up as the card went on. Who else was... Rebus. Let's quickly touch on her. My God, she had the craziest eyes I've ever seen. My God, if you saw that lady in public popping out those peepers at you, you'd be running the other way. You didn't even have to know she was an MMA fighter. That was scary shit. Even she looked like she was completely out of her depth. And then she comes back for the unanimous decision win. She wins round 2, round 3. And that's against Arujo, who I thought was kind of fighting a little dirty, which another thing I quite liked. She was getting the eye rake going on with the gloves. I actually think she tried to bite her at one point. Good on you. You know, entertaining stuff. Look, once again, we'll just continue with fighters who have no clue what they're doing. Except this guy, Duplessis, he seems to keep winning his fights. He looked like some guy you just picked up off the street, given a few bumps of an upper, and gone, go in there. See what you can do. And again, he was wild, he was unpredictable, but he took out Derek Brunson, okay? Who, maybe not the best fighter in his career anymore, but, oh man, he was landing some absolute bombs on Brunson. And I actually thought Brunson was showing a bit of inexperience. Duplessis kept giving him his back, but Brunson didn't really go for the choke. I think he went for the choke once, maybe got around the chin a little bit, but I thought it was there a lot more in the fight tonight. But whatever, Duplessis ends up winning by TKO at the end of round 2. after Brunson's corner throws in the towel. And they threw it in real late as well. They threw it in with like 1 second remaining. So they must have known their fighter was gone because he had another minute to recover on. So, well, that's it. Duplessis keeps winning. The only other entertaining point about that fight was like the 60-90 double ankle lock that they were going for. Brunson had an ankle locked in with his foot up near Duplessis' arms, who had his own ankle locked in, and they were just there wrestling each other. I wanted it to end like that. Double tap out. Has that ever happened in the UFC? I've seen double knockouts before in other sports, but never a double tap out. That would have been insane. Okay, and look, here's where we actually start to see some real fighters, all right? Cody Garbrandt, obviously a former world champion. He knows how to fight, all right? My goodness, was he so quick on his feet. That footwork was a blur at times. He was... That is experience. This guy knew how to strike. He had great footwork. Didn't really see much wrestling. I don't believe that was his game. Like I said, I'm not the biggest UFC fan, despite the shirt. He was doing all sorts of shit though in that ring. He was doing Eddie Gordo kicks. He was dropping to the ground and doing little kind of trip kicks. I know he did start doing the takedowns. I remember he went for another little trip kick and then converted it into a takedown. Yeah, that was a really, really good fight by Garbrandt. You can see why he was a former world champion. But it was against Trevin Jones. I don't know whether he was confused by Garbrandt, whether the footwork was throwing him off, whether those little Irish dances Garbrandt was doing was like getting to him a little bit. But the guy almost forgot that he was in a fight. By the end of round 2, I think he'd only connected with 4 punches and thrown 8. Something like that. I think he only ended with about 10 connected punches. Dude, what are you doing? You've had like a 12-week training camp for this? You're a fighter. What are you doing? At least throw some punches, right? Throw a kick. Doesn't matter if they miss. Well, it kind of does, but it was boring. If it wasn't for Garbrandt and the showmanship, that was actually a very boring fight on the card. Trevin does actually sort of realize maybe I can do something and starts throwing some punches at the end of round 3. And he actually catches Garbrandt a couple times. So I don't know whether it was just Garbrandt taking his foot off the gas, going, the fight's mine, or whether Jones probably could have won this fight had he been fighting like that to start the fight. Apparently Garbrandt's got a very suspect chin. Try and exploit that. Try and land some bombs on him. If you need to be wild, I was giving Marquez shit about being wild, but be wild, okay? That's a lot more entertaining than doing nothing, doing absolutely shit all fight. So, Cody ends up winning by unanimous decision. Like I said, it was actually a pretty boring fight. Garbrandt was the only entertaining part of that. But that's the end of the prelims. Probably wasn't worth my time watching them. Nothing really exciting happened. But look, we'll get to the main card now. The main card did kick off with Bo Nickel versus, I think, Jamie Pickett, was it? Now, this is Nickel's debut. Okay. And to debut on the pay-per-view section of a card, there's obviously a lot of hype surrounding this kid. I don't know much about him. Apparently, he's a decorated collegiate wrestler. I think the pre-fight graphics said something about only him and Ben Askren have a certain wrestling accomplishment coming into the UFC. So, I mean, that's pretty good. Ben Askren's career kind of went down the shitter, but to be only 1 or 2 people to have something in wrestling, and look, wrestling, that's the up-and-coming thing in UFC. Everyone's got to know they're wrestling now, okay? Jiu-Jitsu only works if your opponent's on the ground, so obviously to be a good wrestler, that's important now. But so, look, he's obviously got a lot of hype around him, and that was evident with the choice of opponent, right? This was a cherry picked, like, through and through. They were like, hey, Nickel, here's your first UFC win. Go on, man, make a name for yourself, because Pickett, you could have put me in the ring against Nickel and the result would have been basically exactly the same. I'd have done as well as Jamie Pickett did in this fight. He did nothing. He ends up losing by a first-round submission via the arm triangle choke. But all that being said, there is a tiny bit of controversy around this, with a blatant low blow by Nickel, which ends up leading to Pickett being on the ground and getting submitted. Now, the ref completely missed this. Do you think this changes the outcome of the fight? Probably not. It probably invented the same, just a bit later. But I don't know. It's not good to see when you've got that little bit of doubt in your mind, thinking maybe this could have gone someone else's way if it wasn't for the legal tactic. I think fighting dirty should be a skill, right? Like it used to be in boxing. If you could fight effectively dirty without being caught, if it wins you the round, if it wins you the fight, that's what matters at the end of the day. Nothing always has to be so clean. You don't have to be like poking people's eyes out, but the occasional lacing of the eyes with a glove, stuff like that. Orlando Salido against Loma, okay, going back to boxing. He beats Loma because he's got the experience of being a dirty fighter, okay? So it does have its place in combat sports. But that was just, wasn't a great look for Nickel. So, look, but it's his first fight. I'm sure he'll come back and he'll continue showing the wrestling skills. He obviously does have a lot of wrestling skills. I think they said he could have gone the Olympic route. So, yeah. I mean, if you can be in the Olympics, man, you're one of the best in the world. So, pardon. Okay, and then we'll move on to Gamrot versus Turner. First of all, that fight starts, and I'm like, man, Turner's huge. For his weight, I can't remember what his height was, but that was like a big dude. That reminded me near me, right? I'm 6'5". I used to weigh like 60 kilos, okay? So I know what it's like to be a big old dude in a lower weight division, okay? So I was ready for him. I was like, yeah, go! Lanky boys unite! Woo! But no, it didn't end up happening that way. Gamrot ends up winning by split decision. I think this was actually another entertaining fight. Both had a game plan and they were trying to execute it, and both were sort of executing quite beautifully at times. Turner was definitely the striker in this fight, while Gamrot was definitely using more wrestling, right? He was going for the takedowns a lot more. So it was just back and forth at one time. I remember this absolute cracking combo by Turner. I can't remember, it was round one, I believe. It was like a knee, and then it was a 1-2, then it was followed with a kick. A 4 kick-punch combination like that, that is good. That shows skills, that shows balance, that shows footwork. To be able to transition from your 1-2 into a kick, or to go into the 1-2 from a knee without losing balance, without just being wild with it. He has some skills, Turner. I definitely would say that he had some skills. And then it really just came down to Gamrot having the ground control and the takedown. So I think that's what wins Gamrot the match or the fight. I do think Turner was getting the best of him in the standing game. But look, this is a quick question for all you real UFC fans out here. Ground control and the way it gets scored, I don't really know if it should be valued as much as striking. Now, like I said, I'm a boxing fan, more so. But when it comes to boxing, I remember reading this Daily Mail, sort of where fans mailing questions to this boxing expert, and one of the fans claimed to have been an ex-ref, or sorry, not ex-ref, an ex-judge. And he said all this stuff about effective aggression, ring control, all that. Nothing. That's not how we judge fights. When we judge fights, it's who would you rather be at the end of that round. That's who wins that round. So, when it comes to UFC, who would I rather be? The guy that got hugged a lot on the ground? Or the guy that got kicked in the face? Because I would rather be the guy that got hugged on the ground a lot. I shouldn't say hugging. Obviously, there's a lot more to it. But when you're not going for submissions, when you're not really getting the ground pound in, do you still score the ground control? Look, I'm not trying to sound like an idiot or like a hater, so to speak. It's a genuine question, okay? Because personally, I would rather be laid on for a little bit than have a front kick to the face, okay? Or a 1-2 to the face. That shit hurts, okay? But whatever. It does get scored. The takedowns were clean. They obviously do take something out of you, so I'm not upset with the result. Gamrot does win, and I do think he deserves to win. All right. Now we're getting into the meat of it. All right. It's time! Rakhmonov versus Neal. My goodness. Rakhmonov, You're like the MMA version of Gennady Golovkin out there. You're the boogeyman, right? I can see why you've got this hype and why people are like, oh, let's not fight him because we're going to lose. He has a wicked skill set, all right? Jeff Neal, he ain't no Bondo either. Okay, they're both from round one, where they were showing their experience as fighters, right? But Rakhmonov was clearly just had the better skill set. He could kick, he could punch, the footwork was great, he could do it all, okay? They're back and forth in this fight as well. Not only does, obviously, I'm going to keep praising Rakhmonov, I thought he was really good. He has a chin as well. Some of these exchanges towards the ends of some rounds, he was getting stunned by Neal, but he was recovering and coming back. That's a great skill to have. You can't teach having a chin, okay? Either you've got it or you don't. You can't train it, okay? And he's got one, okay? Because he was getting hit with some vicious punches and he was just coming back even more ferociously. He was, but Neal as well has a hell of a chin. That was a really entertaining fight. I thought this was going to go the distance because it was just a back and forth exchange. But then out of nowhere, we had the standing choke by Rakhmonov to end the fight. That was incredible. People saying it gives off Jon Jones vibes because, oh man, way he walked off after that choke. That was confidence. That was bottled confidence right there. He was up against the cage and he had Neal and he just had him under the neck like that and just within seconds Neal was almost out. It was, and then that little wig they put on, I don't know what that is. I've seen a few fighters do that. Khabib, he did the same thing, right? Joe Rogan, you need to stop putting these wigs on, man. You look ridiculous in the ring, okay? I don't know whether it's because you're like, I don't know, 4'11" or whatever you are, right? But I saw the meme going around of comparing him to Danny DeVito in that Sunny episode where he's like the art critic. Couldn't be more accurate, right? You look ridiculous. But, who am I to judge? You make probably millions of dollars more than I do, so, and a lot more people listen to your podcast than they do ours. But, oh well. Look, the hype behind Rakhmonov is real. I'd love to see him go up against some of the top of the division now. He's 17-0 with 17 finishes. That is, and you know what? I think it was 9 submissions, 8 KOs or something, so it's not like he's a one-trick pony either. He can take you out with a sub and he can take you out with a knockout. That is incredible. That's important to have. We've seen a few fighters in years past. Ronda Rousey is a good example. She was a great submission artist. But that's kind of where that was her limit, you know? And going back to, you know, the boxing versus the MMA, Holly Holm is an incredible boxer, especially in the UFC. Once Rousey found herself up against a boxer with footwork, it was hard for her to get in and get her down. And all she got was countered every time she came in and ended up losing, okay? So you need to be well-rounded in the sport. It's important. You've got to keep your opponent thinking. If all you're going to do is strike, defend the strike. But you've got to mix in the takedowns. You've got to mix in the kicks, okay? And Rakhmonov, he's got it all, okay? So I'm going to keep my eye out on this kid because I think he's going to go far. And the fact that he's from Kazakhstan, I love Triple G. Triple G is probably one of my all-time favorite boxers. So yeah, good. I love it. Keep it up. The co-main event. Now, this for me was probably the fight of the night by far. Shevchenko, I remember the first time I saw her was against Jessica I believe it was, where she gets the knockout win with a vicious kick to the face. I was like, who is this woman? My God, this is scary stuff. Okay? That was dangerous. That was, you know what? They say that in other regards. But you do that on the street, you get locked up for life, okay? She was hard. She's hardcore, okay? So I was excited to see any Shevchenko match. And then she was going up against Grasso. Now, Shevchenko, was it 7 years she's been undefeated? Just her 8th title defense in a row. Clearly one of the best UFC you've seen in their women's division in a while, I'd imagine. So obviously she's a favorite. Now, Alexa Grasso, though, you could tell that sometimes it's just it's like the whole Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson. Sometimes you're going to see it in the fighter where that it's just going to be the performance of a lifetime. Okay, there's something in them. Okay, that burning desire that is just they've told themselves, I am gonna win this fight no matter what. They've put it out there into the universe, and look, it became true because Grasso had a huge upset over Shevchenko. Okay. Once again, this was a clash of styles, which, you know what? This is what the UFC has been and should be, okay? It should be your striking versus your grappling, your jiu-jitsu versus your, taekwondo, throwing up out there, okay? We had Grasso employing an absolutely stellar standing game in this fight. Her punch combos were vicious. They were hard. They were catching Shevchenko. I don't think Shevchenko was expecting to have such a hard fight tonight. I think at times she was thinking, what's happening here? Okay, I'm meant to win. I'm the better fighter here. But no, so despite Shevchenko having a great standing game herself, you can tell that she had to mix it up. And she started going for the takedowns. With good success, mind you. Okay, Grasso didn't really have any takedown defense. Shevchenko's obviously watched her film and she's picked up on this. And she's like, well, let's just take it down. Because for a while there, Grasso had no answer to being taken down. But that being said, she always managed to find a way to get back up again, which was incredible. I think that also was surprising Shevchenko. I know the commentators were calling out for her to use the wall and flip herself over, and she did. Maybe she heard them, but the situational awareness to do stuff like that, to get out of tricky situations against one of the best female fighters in the UFC. She, like I said, that burning desire. She was going to win this fight, and the finish. My God, okay, that was incredible. Okay, she says in the post-fight interview, it was something she was training for. This jumping on the back as Shevchenko goes for a spinning move. Obviously, Shevchenko is well known for his spinning back kick and the spinning back fist. Okay, that's dangerous. If you're trying to jump in on someone with a spinning back fist, that can become a spinning back elbow, and that's cracking, right? But no, towards when was it? I think it was about round 3. I think it was about round 3. Shevchenko was up against the cage, and she goes for the spinning back fist, and with the speed of a drop bear falling out of a gum tree, everyone, she was on Shevchenko's back in a heartbeat, and just locked in that choke. I can't even say it was a choke, right? Because she didn't even have it under the chin. It didn't matter. She had all the force of her entire country behind her. She wanted to be, I think it was the first Mexican women's champ. Holy moly. Shevchenko came out looking like a Pokeball, everyone. The amount of pressure she had around her chin area. I couldn't believe it. It was brutal, everyone. And you can go look at the photos. You can see Shevchenko was all red and then just white here. Like I said, like a Pokeball, everyone. The amount of force and pressure that she must have been putting on her. Oh man, I would not want to have that done to me. I tell you what, you know, I don't mind taking the old punch to the noggin, but there are some things I do not like. I don't like anything to the gut, and I definitely wouldn't like someone putting that much pressure on my jaw and my chin. Oh, those neck cranks or chin cranks, that's savage. That's a savage submission. Because with a choke, you don't have to put a tiny bit of pressure and you cut it off, they tap. But you have to be in a hell of a lot of pain to tap from one of those. And obviously, Shevchenko was in a hell of a lot of pain because that was a brutal submission by Grasso. And look, good on her. She deserved that win. If you're a Mexican UFC fan, you are eating good right now. You've got several champions across the divisions. So, you know, what a good time to be a fan. Because, yeah, look, it was a good fight. I know I've jumped straight into sort of the finish, but this was just back and forth between the both of them. Just most of the fight, you know. Two fighters employing different fight styles, their game plans, they were being executed. It was very, very entertaining. You add in the upset. This was definitely fight of the night for me. I didn't see what UFC awarded as fight of the night, performance of the night. I'd have to be positive this was one of them. Hopefully. I hope it's not this next one, which we'll get to. Jon Jones versus Ciryl Gane. This was the entire reason I watched this event and I reviewed it. because it's Jon Jones's return after 3 years, after dominating light heavyweight, basically undefeated if not for a disqualification, lost. He's in the GOAT tier already, and he's coming back and he's fighting the #1 ranked heavyweight. To me, I was thinking about it before the fight started. It was a stupid decision, I thought. What are you doing? Okay, you've just taken 3 years off and you're moving up a weight division and you're going to fight the top guy. That's normally a recipe for disaster, okay? Ring rust is a real thing, okay? And then fighting at a new weight, these are real things, okay? It takes a special fighter to move up a weight division and win straight away against one of the best, okay? Normally you need a few tune-up fights, and you know what? I don't think anyone would have been too upset had Jon Jones had a tune-up fight, okay? I don't know against who. Still put him in the top 10. But Ciryl Gane is what, #1 in the division? So I was thinking, you're biting off more than you can chew, Jon Jones. This is a mistake. You should have waited it out. Clearly, I have no idea what I'm talking about because he absolutely steamrolled Gane. This was a huge disappointment for me. I've just sat down and watched 5 hours of UFC, getting all hyped up. I'm like, yeah, here it comes. I'm ready for an absolute war. Nah, absolutely. 2.5 minutes was all it took for Jon Jones to take out Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane didn't even land any legal punches or kicks. His only strike was a kick to the nads, a kick to the groin. That's the best thing he offered all night. Look, I was saying that about some of the prelim fights. Imagine the camp you've just gone through, the grueling training, the sparring, having to stick to your diet, all that hard shit, right? I actually think training camps are probably harder than most fights, you know? Especially in Jon Jones's case. It was probably more work for him training for the fight than there ever was actually in the fight. But to have all that time spent preparing yourself and then getting done in 2.5 minutes, God, you must be kicking yourself. Oh, because you definitely weren't kicking Jon Jones anywhere else in his nads. I don't even really know what else to say. I was hoping to have a lot more to say about this fight, but there really wasn't. Jon Jones is clearly, he can fight at his weight. He can fight at heavyweight. Now, I saw a lot of people online before the fight had before the event had even started, days prior, when the photos came out of Jon Jones in his heavyweight physique, and he's just got a gut on him and everything. And everyone's whinging that, all he's done is eat hot dogs for 3 years, he's out of shape. You don't know what you're talking about, okay? Fighting physique is a whole different type of animal, okay? Sometimes it's your fat boys who are the strong ones. You look at just recently, boxing, going back to boxing. Tyson Fury. He doesn't have a good physique, but he's a hell of a fighter, right? He's the #1 or #2 best heavyweight in the world right now. You go to Andy Ruiz. He was fat as. He was a chunky boy. And he takes out Anthony Joshua. Okay? So, look, you don't need to have a bodybuilder's physique to be a good fighter. In fact, normally that comes to the detriment to most fighters. Okay? When you've got those big sort of bodybuilder muscles, they take a lot more oxygen. You get gassed a lot quicker. That was Anthony Joshua's problem for a long time, you know. So look, it is the fat boys who rule the world here, and yeah. So the physique doesn't matter, okay? He can fight at this weight for sure. We need Ngannou back now, 100%, because this is bad. This is bad for the sport right now. If Jon Jones is that good at heavyweight from the get-go. Okay, we've had this issue in other times in other sports. When you've got someone at the tops that's so dominant, that's so many leagues above every other fighter, why? Why do we care anymore? Okay, we can watch the #3 fighter go up against the #5 fighter and go, wow, what a cracking match. Oh man, both these guys are really good. I can't wait for one of them to just be fodder to Jon Jones. Okay, so and then I guess it's a double-edged sword. Okay, you want there to be like, ooh, this guy could be the best, this guy could be the best, bam, 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 I want to see him fight. Okay, that's what I prefer. But if you have that, you'd never have the big upsets, okay, like Rizon versus Shevchenko, like Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson. Someone does need to be at the top for a while for the upset to eventually happen. And obviously upsets are entertaining. But is it worth the 7 years of just one person dominating the division? I don't think so. Okay, when Vlad Klitschko was undefeated for 10 years, that was the most boring time in heavyweight history. Because why did it matter? Everyone was just going to get knocked out to him anyway. Okay, and then as soon as Tyson Fury beat him, the division was alive again. Okay, so look, I think it's scary stuff when Jon Jones is this good already and he's just steamrolled through the #1 ranked heavyweight. Because who else is there? Stipe Miocic was apparently the next fighter. Is he going to do much better? I mean, how old's Stipe now? You know, let me look it up. Okay, Stipe Miocic is 40 years old. I know Jon Jones ain't no spring chicken either, but is he going to do much better than Ciryl? I don't think so. Man, look, you can't do any worse than Ciryl, so he probably does do better. But that's the only other sort of person that's going to be a threat to him. Unless I'm wrong, I don't know him up much. But Francis Ngannou is coming back. Francis versus Jon Jones, that's a superstar level fight, all right? That is a huge fight. I know Francis ain't with the company anymore, but he needs to come back. In fact, he threw out the post-fight tweet saying something about warming my seat or I'm still champ or something like that. Well, if that's how you feel, Francis, get back in there ASAP. Don't wait another second. Okay, I don't want either of you to get too old. This fight needs to happen because I really can't see anyone else challenging Jon Jones if he's going to fight like this at heavyweight. He had the speed, he had the strikes, he had the creativity. All of that still remained even after 3 years. He's going to get better. I still think ring rust is a thing. He probably had ring rust and he's that good. Okay? Imagine he gets a couple more fights under his belt at heavyweight. He's only going to improve. Okay? That was UFC 285. We'll touch on a few more things. Main one being, does this make Jon Jones the GOAT? Is he now the greatest of all time? He was already in the discussion for greatest of all time, for sure. He's 29-1 now, with that one loss being a DQ loss, I believe. So, 29-0, basically. In the UFC, that's a great record. I will say this about UFC versus boxing. I love how a loss does not kill you. You can have a loss and come back and still be a great fighter. It doesn't matter. But he doesn't really have any losses. Okay, no one has legitimately had a clean win over Jon Jones. Okay, so does that make him the GOAT? He's fought 2 weight divisions. He's won the title of both weight divisions. Personally, I don't know. I'd love to hear in the comments who you think are the GOATs. Okay, off the top of my head, I mean, let's not forget about the women. Amanda Nunes. Okay, she's got to be one of the GOATs among the female fighters. Okay, we've got Khabib. Okay, how quick we are to forget about Khabib. Okay. I know his best win is probably McGregor. After McGregor had the layoff as well. But he was 29-0, and he was a boogeyman. No one wanted to fight him. Okay? And when he was fighting, everyone was calling him the GOAT. So is it just recency bias? I don't know. And even before Khabib, you have GSP, George St. Pierre. Okay? He's 29-2 or something. Okay? Wasn't he the GOAT? What about Anderson Silva? Wasn't he the GOAT as well? Yeah, this phrase gets thrown around a lot, okay? And I'd love to know what you personally think. Who is the GOAT of the UFC right now? I think you can't go wrong with any of those names, okay? All great fighters. So, look, let me know in the comments, who is your personal GOAT and why? Also, let me know how much shit I've talked tonight, because I probably have. I'm not the most knowledgeable fan. But I will say this. UFC is an entertaining sport. There is absolutely no doubt about. I think it does a lot right. One of the things I do absolutely love about the sport is obviously you can take the loss. It's not the end of your career like it's in boxing, but more than that. This is something that needs to change in boxing, and I love what UFC does. The UFC actually let their women fight, okay? None of this 2-minute round bullshit, okay? They fight the exact same rounds as the men out there. I don't know why it doesn't happen in boxing, okay? Clearly these women can fight, all right? More women may actually fight in boxing if the rounds are a bit longer, we could get more finishes. More finishes brings more eyes to it. More eyes brings more money. Obviously, the UFC women's fighters make a lot more money than the women in boxing. Okay, so I absolutely do love that UFC lets their women fight because it produces some great matches like it did tonight with Shevchenko versus Grasso. But look, that's all I'm going to say about everything tonight. You have been here with your boy Hogsley. This has been the WZWA Network. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit. And we will see you down the road.
Network, that's the way we play. Good God Almighty. Network, that's the way we play. Get puppies. Network, that's the way we play. Get.
The following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.